Okay, now we're live. I did it right this time. We went live before and it was set to private, which means nobody saw it. So that doesn't help. I'm sitting here wondering, I'm like, well, nobody's entering the chat. That's kind of weird. I mean, I know it can go slow, but if you've got anything, let me know where you're joining us from, and any questions you might have. Got some people coming in. Everything seems to be working now. Less technical difficulties. Appreciate the love on TikTok and YouTube. Lots of love here too. Let me know where you're joining us from. Let me turn my my email off so I don't keep getting notifications coming in. And I'm here to answer questions. For those new on TikTok, I go live on occasion for YouTube, but I'm kind of new to TikTok. So I'm experimenting with doing both at the same time. So got multiple cameras going, trying to handle this. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if I can handle reading multiple screens and multiple questions. Hey, Renee from San Antonio, Texas. Hello, good to see you. I am in San Diego, so Southern California, Carson, California. Right on, Kevin. Good to see you. That's on TikTok. I've got some questions coming in. Let's see what I can do. Oh, it's just comments. Okay. Trinidad. I'm going to be a first-time dad very soon, October 25th. Awesome. Congrats. Scared a little bit. Yep. That's going to happen. All right, now people coming in. So Anirban, how do you deal with a cranky and strong-willed child? How old is the child? That'll help. When you do have a question, it's kind of helpful to understand a little bit of context of their age. Tyler, good to see you. Tyler's asking, Tyler's from Atlanta. My daughter will soon transitioning from her crib bed to a toddler bed. Any advice as far as switching beds for kids? Be prepared for them to come out of bed a couple times. I wouldn't consider myself a sleep expert. Noel, hello from Mission Viejo. Good on ya. Is that from 2 years old for the cranky? All right, I've got to get my bearings here. There's multiple things coming in at once. So for the toddler bed, yeah, I'm thinking back to when we had the transition. Our son was a little bit older, maybe 3, 2, no. Yeah, I mean, the toddler bed for us was just moving down one of the sides, and the idea that the child was able to now get out of bed. So be prepared for them to possibly, get out of bed, be scared. I think there's a couple different philosophies for it. I just, be patient. Talk to your child about, kind of if there's rules for staying in their bed and what you expect. And it's going to be, it's a good ride. For a 2-year-old that is cranky and strong-willed, I would say that is not uncommon for a 2-year-old. Cranky and strong-willed are two very different things. Cranky would mean typically that they're hungry, they're tired, or, they're not getting what they want or they want attention. Strong-willed is a different thing. That's, is at least how I interpret it. Strong-willed is the child is very, in many sense, sometimes independent. They know what they want. They don't give up. Patience is important. And then also, your tone and how you parent. A strong-willed child, you're not going to, I wouldn't suggest to argue with a strong-willed child or, debate with a strong-willed child. I mean, part of it is coming from a place of love, patience, calmness. And that strong-willed child oftentimes, grows into independent, confident, and, those kinds of things. So I think you want to foster that without them being, call it jerks. You still, it's a good thing. All right, let me This is a good question from Brian. How does one handle emotions with a baby? And currently working 2 jobs. Wife is a stay-at-home mother. I just get aggravated at the smallest things with our son, and I don't mean it. Well, you need a break is what you need, Brian. Just the same way that, your wife might be there all day with the toddler or with the baby, sorry, that, you having 2 jobs, working all the time, it is hard. So first, give yourself some compassion. And if you're not familiar with self-compassion, I suggest to go to YouTube, look up self-compassion. Reality is it is hard, having a baby. It's stressful, depending on your, financial situation, that can add stress. And then there's the dynamic between you and your wife. You need a break, and it is very hard. And so, there's not any sort of magic dust or, thing that I can say other than I do have some videos on patience, and, that can mean, pausing before you react. I do meditation, eat well, exercise. I mean, there's things that you can do for your body physically and mentally. I think you have to give yourself some self-compassion. And I know you don't mean it. You're trying to be a good father, but that situation is hard. You work all day, depending on the demands that you have. Being the stay-at-home parent is really hard too. The gist of it, or the summary is that at that age, it's just hard. And, have compassion for each other, have compassion for yourselves, and take breaks. Give yourself the ability to take breaks. And same thing, with your wife. She needs breaks too. You need to be whole, you need to feel good, and then you can parent way better with, for your child. What happens too, and especially as you're coming into parenting, is you often feel guilty. Like you feel guilty for taking some time away, or you feel guilty for, not being there every second. But, you're not going to parent well if you are overwhelmed. And so, you've got to do some self-care, and you don't have to go overboard with it. And you can't use, excuse of golfing 4 times a week as, needed self-care. But, have that discussion with your wife about, needing some kind of break. Actually, I just thought of this. I have a friend who actually told me that when they came home from work, and they have multiple children, everybody knew that dad gets 10 minutes before anybody talks to him, and so this might be something with your wife too. It's one thing to like walk in the door and, be handed the baby, and it's like, because she's probably at her wit's end sometimes. It's another thing that maybe you have a certain amount of time, if you know yourself, to decompress and relax, just to kind of take a breath. And then, and you say, you know what, I'm good. I'm going for it. I feel better. And then you can go into it with the, I'm trying to get through some of these questions. Oh, sorry. So, sorry. It's funny. Some people ask some questions. I wish I knew these answers, but you guys ask some serious questions sometimes. Yeah. So Cedric, leaving for the Army soon. Would my daughter still recognize my voice? She's almost a month old now. Yeah. I wasn't in the military or away, but I did work a lot. And so what I would suggest is when you can, do FaceTime or phone calls so that, she can see your voice, or she can hear your voice and get used to it. She's not going to forget it. Especially when they're very young, they're not going to. They will remember you. At that age, when kids get a little bit older, they don't even remember that age. A lot of that age is the bonding that you're doing with the child. So I would suggest lots of FaceTime if you have the ability to. If you don't, let's say you're not allowed phone calls or not allowed anything, I know that there's other things where you can do recording devices. That I've seen like little stuffed animals where you can record a message and then send that to your home. So there's a lot of different options for that. So Chris, I'm a single father, 5 kids, own a restaurant. I feel sometimes I put more hours in at my restaurant than I am at home. I feel guilty for having my in-laws take care of my kids. Yeah, that's a common feeling. Whether you are single, whether you use your in-laws or not, it's hard to be everything to everybody. And as someone who owns a restaurant, you are often obligated, obviously, to be there a lot. Um, and for us, we often find our value through our work and our contribution. Same kind of answer as before. I think, well, there's a couple things. One, you've got to give yourself some compassion as well. It's like, you're doing what you can. Maybe you can take some time off. Maybe you can change a schedule here or there, or get a manager, depending on the situation. But also, and I will say this not to make you feel bad or anything, but it's something that I keep in mind because I love to work as well. I love doing this. I'm here doing this. I'm away from my family. It's almost dinner time. I'm not there with my family. So what you need to do, though, is keep in mind that this is the famous line, is that nobody on their deathbed ever said that I should have spent more time at the office. Nobody. So keep that in mind. If you spend a ton of time at home, you're going to feel guilty about the restaurant, or maybe the restaurant won't do as well. But as a business owner, that's part of the idea that, you can control some of that. Maybe there are times where you could change a schedule. You could have someone cover. There are occasions where, when your child gets a little bit older, you can bring the children in and have them work with you or have them interact with you. Like, it's not easy. I certainly am saying that I'm not saying that it is. I don't know how much custody you have, as far as sharing custody. But yeah, I empathize with you. I know that that's not an easy thing. So you do the best you can. Don't beat yourself up. Give yourself some self-compassion and look at possibly, rearranging schedules and doing what you can on that. Noel said the video, "You should be proud of yourself" versus "I'm proud of you" was so good. Well, it's funny you say that because so many people got upset at that, mostly on TikTok. People on YouTube seem a little bit calmer, but people on TikTok go nuts when you say something that they don't like. And I'm fairly new to the TikTok environment and the TikTok audience, and I will tell you, they're vocal. And that can be fine because you can learn from it as a creator. I'm okay with people being respectfully disagreeing and us having conversation. What I don't appreciate is hate bombs and people coming to all different channels that I have, and it's the mob, if you call it that. Somebody doesn't agree with you and they just go aggressive on you, and it's just not, it's interesting too, because I was going to make a video about this, but a lot of the environment on TikTok that is very vocal against things sometimes are people who are talking about being nice or being gentle or being easy or being, and yet when it comes to somebody else, these people were not nice. These people were not gentle. These people were ruthless. And that's just not the way I operate. Somebody's coming at me with hate. I mean, I'll stick up for myself, no question. But, my first choice would be to have a dialogue. It's have a conversation and say, hey, listen, I'm not in agreement with this. It's not, bombarding people with things. As you can say, I got a little bit worked up over it because I was quite surprised at the attitude. Drips. Let's get back to the videos. People, it's better over this. Brian, cool. Glad that helped. Drips, your videos helped me a ton. Just want to let you know. Thank you. I that's why I do this. I mean, for sure. I do this and, I of course I do have a membership in which people can pay at the website. You can do that. But these videos on YouTube and TikTok stuff, it's all free. It all takes up my time and money and energy. And, it's not something that, or it's something that I take very seriously. And so, yeah, it's definitely, something that I'm passionate about. And I appreciate when people, people do it. Chris, Oh, I'm sorry. So Chris's wife died over a year ago trying to find equal balance. Yeah. Well, that makes it even harder. Because if you were the full-time parent, um, that here's the only thing I can suggest in that, because that's a unique situation is, and I'm not sure you might be, but for me, I lost a parent, which is different from a spouse, different from a kid, different, but I went to grief counseling and specifically for grief. And it was so valuable for me because I had never really had someone that close to me pass away. And I was very close with my mother. She tremendous influence on me. But grief counseling helped so much. I went both to individual counseling and then also to a peer group in which I was talking about things. And everybody, I will say what I did learn, and was probably the biggest thing, and may or may not apply, is that everybody grieves differently. There is no right way to grieve other than, don't hurt yourself or others or whatever. But as far as the process, what you go through, your emotions, everybody grieves differently, and it's all okay. And that was the big takeaways that I took, is like allowing myself to feel, allowing myself to have the emotion. And often as men, we may not have people to share it with. We may not have others around us. And, that's why I said for me that it was so valuable to just talk with somebody about how I was feeling, the depth and the pain and everything else. And, it really, really helped me. But I did learn that there isn't a right way to deal with grief. Das Gut. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. Well, so Jesse said, what about advice do you have for someone who's really excited about being a dad but never had one? Well, it's become part of Dad University, whether it is watching the videos and doing that. If you want to take it further, I have the daduniversity.com. You can go become a member. You pay what feels good, even if it's a small amount. And you take courses and you learn. Now, there's no substitute for learning on the job, learning on the fly. And that's what we do as parents. I mean, in a lot of cases, I'm going through the teen years, and I can study the teen years all I want. Child development, child psychology, you can study it all you want. But when you actually deal with the teen, it's a lot different. And so, nothing quite prepares you like the real thing. And so, and that's even the case when you help other people all the time. My wife was a nurse for years in labor and delivery. And until she had her own baby, she was telling people all these things, and like she had never experienced that herself. And then when she experienced it herself, it was a whole different ballgame. So I think, though, to your question, I think it is continue to watch videos like this, be around others. You'll be good, and you just handle that child with love and care, and put in the time and the effort, and it works, and it feels really good, both for you and the child. So Tyork, our hospital is only allowing one visitor per 24 hours in the hospital. My wife and I are going to be the only one there. Do you think it would be fair to just tell the family no visiting at the hospital? I think that's an individual decision. I don't think I can tell you that. If you feel very strongly, then that's up to you to do that. Just be aware of the ramifications and the impact that could have on the family. But your feelings are your feelings. I think you have to do what is best, or what you feel is best for you and your family. That's a tough one. I might handle it different than somebody else would. I know for you it's very, very important, of course. Other family members obviously care tremendously about it. Can you live stream from there? I don't know. Can you quench some of their desire to do that? I feel for you, because that's a tough decision. Oh, wow. Let's see. So Kyle said, can I ask you about how to deal with my mother-in-law? My wife and I have a 7-month-old girl, and my mother-in-law is overbearing and tells us how to parent. Yes. Search Dad University mother-in-law on my YouTube. There is a video of how to deal with an overbearing mother-in-law. And if you've already watched that and you're still having issues, then I don't know if you've implemented, what I've said, because I do give some specific tips on how to deal with it. One of the most awesome phrases that you can remember is when she says something, you say, I'll take that into consideration. That's it. Doesn't mean you're going to do it. Doesn't mean you have to do it. It means you'll take it into consideration. She feels heard. You get to get her off your back. It's great. I was lucky, and my wife was lucky. We both had, in-laws, that with the children were wonderful. My mother was actually, a communicator, was a relationship expert and like a godmother of, just how to deal with this stuff. So, unfortunately, I lost her too early. My child was only 3, and my children were 3 and 1 when she passed. But I sure wish, that she was around. And sometimes you think of it as overbearing, but it's really difficult when they're not there. So let's see. Thank you, new dads. That's probably Jonathan, I would imagine. We did meet. John, going back to your comment on keeping your emotions in check, does meditation really help? Absolutely. So I can tell you the things that help me regulate. My diet absolutely helps. Exercise absolutely helps. Meditation absolutely helps. And the last one that some people or many people are not going to want to hear, reduce or eliminate alcohol. Now, that may not be for everybody, but for me, the tremendous reduction in alcohol improved my mental health. I wasn't necessarily, or at least I didn't think I was, using alcohol to escape. I was using it to just enjoy and do things and relax and whatever. But what I found for me is that days after, if not right after, and then many days after, I would go down. I would feel down after drinking alcohol. And so for me, that became just a choice. And, for some people, it might not affect them that way, but for me, it was horrible. And I didn't know that until I stopped. So even, not forever, but, and I still will drink, but the reduction is like, I drink maybe 10% of or less maybe of what I used to. And I wasn't drinking that much before. So it's just every once in a while. But I would invite you to try it. I just had a friend who did a sober September, and I was on the phone with him, and he's like, I can't believe how great I feel, and it really is a big deal. And especially when you're going through all this stuff, that's one of the first things people like to do is, come home at night and have a drink and relax and unwind. And I just find that it doesn't help. So let's see what's going on here. I'm getting more, trying to keep up. And trying to get any of the questions I missed here. So White Rhino asks, I literally just brought my daughter home from the hospital today. Well, congratulations. What's the best way to get my little girl on a schedule and sleep during Knots and Not All Day? Well, when they are first, getting out of the hospital, I do have a video on that, but, it's kind of all over the place. They might be really just sleeping a lot, and that's okay. You start to get them on a schedule as you can, by feeding at certain times and, just when they're up, and then when they'll nap, you try to nap. It's like, but that can take weeks or if not longer sometimes to get on any kind of schedule. And even when you have them on the schedule, they don't want to cooperate. So I say, if anything, just be patient with yourself. I do watch the video on bringing the child home from the hospital with some of that. But for us, it was just, we had our own schedule and we had to adapt a little bit to the child. We we're getting up early to work out, or we, go to sleep early. And, those were things that were important to us. Other people have different priorities. If during the day you've got something. So the child may have their own schedule that is different from yours. And you kind of have to adapt and learn that, and then can kind of mold it a little bit as you go, but don't try to be any drastic changes with that. We had a shirt for my child, or a onesie that said, party up in my crib, 2 a.m. My son wanted to just party in the middle of the night. He was up. And so, luckily my wife took some time off, and she was able to kind of adjust to that, where she'd try to sleep during the day if she could. But, she was up at night with the child that's when we couldn't force him to sleep. We would put him down, we'd do all the techniques, and he just didn't want to sleep for a while. And eventually it sort of happened where, the scheduling happened, and we just kind of stuck with it. You just got to be mindful of it and patient is what I would say. Yeah. So Kyle said about the mother-in-law, she acts differently when family and friends are around, but I will check out your video. Yeah, they do. But that some of that comes from their own insecurities of how they were probably a parent, of like telling others what to do. I mean, that's what happens. It's like, if she has insecurities, then she's going to push them onto, something else. There's all kinds of psychological stuff that could be happening, but, the best thing that you can do is just learn how to deal with it, and part of that is still being respectful. What I would say is not crossing the parent or the family line. This was real valuable information, actually, that my mother taught me. Was your wife deals with her family and you deal with your family. And that can be difficult sometimes. But if, you have your wife's family is overbearing, it's your wife's job to deal with it, not yours. And that's something that, you've got to get, so Edgar, this is one on TikTok. I have a 14-year-old and I really want to bring his confidence up. How can I approach this? So I have a 14-year-old. I have a 14-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. And there's a couple things that we did that I really do think impacted confidence. If they are willing to, I'll tell you, I put them in martial arts. We put our children in martial arts early on. They've stuck with it. That built confidence. Depends on your philosophies on it. We weren't doing it so that they, learn how to fight or be aggressive or anything. It was just, if anything, the discipline and the confidence for sure. The other is bringing them out of their comfort zone and doing it in very small steps. So, this is something that, people do with phobias and fears. Let's say, for example, they're not very confident in, in some kind of situation, is that you bring them into small situations. So, maybe they can't talk to an adult. They don't feel very confident. Well, maybe, you role play, or, you have a friend come over and talk to them first, or, you have to be sort of smart about not throwing them into really uncomfortable situations all at first, but doing it in a slow manner. And, confidence is something that comes from within. And so building them up, I don't know your history. Sometimes it's the sort of the nature of the child to just be a little bit more passive. But also, find what your child is really interested in too. Sometimes going into their world can help you find, or help them gain confidence. I'll give you an example. Like, maybe they're into gaming, or maybe they are into dance or music or something. And you going into that world with them can then approach things in a certain way, which will help bring them confidence. And so I might help if you can be a little bit more specific with like what specifically, if it's just general confidence and like talking to people, or if it's general confidence in school. But that's kind of what I would say is like, go into their world and, try to meet them where they are and slowly build that up. Wife's currently pregnant with a baby. Best advice that you can give to a first-time father? Yes, be empathetic. And empathy means look at things from your wife's perspective, not your own. And this is a game changer. Being empathetic is a game changer. And so look at the situation that, your wife might be uncomfortable. She is carrying another human inside of her. There's all, she goes through emotional roller coaster. So that's the best advice. There's hundreds of things, but that's the best advice I can do. I think that's, a really important thing is to be empathetic. Just a question or two here. Bapjap, Jason, where do you draw the line on bad behavior? Little guy who's a bit over a year and a half, loves to be independent, but chucks his toys over our gate on a consistent basis. Would you consider acting out or just playing around? So one of the things, a year and a half, that, there's not a ton of things that aren't possible. In other words, a child at a year and a half is just learning everything. Where do you draw the line at bad behavior? The first thing I would do is not call it bad behavior. This is a child who is learning. And so you're going to have to think of yourself as a coach, not the almighty king of good and bad. Think of it as the fact that your child is learning and they don't know yet. So don't say bad, don't say good, don't do that. What I would tell you is to tell them and show them what to do instead of what not to do. So as an example, your child is throwing toys over the gate. You might say, hey, let's play with our toys over here. The toys stay in this. You don't say, don't throw them over the gate. Don't even go there. You just say, or you know what? Make up a ring, of something, like, set up flags or set and say, hey, this is where we're going to play. And this is where we play with our toys. I always think that it's good to have designated places where kids can play. Yes, you might want free reign or whatever, but when they're really young, I think it's okay. We did this we had a little area we called our playroom, because before that we had toys all over the house, everything everywhere. So instead we made this room dedicated, an area of this room, and we kind of fenced it off and said, this is the play area. When you want to play with your toys, this is where you do it. And so maybe the same thing could be done outside where the child doesn't have the opportunity to throw. It's away from the gate, and just, make an area where that's where the toys are played. And so you show them what they can do, but remember not to think of so much, especially at that age, is like bad behavior. It's actually making, maybe poor choices, but, who are we to say bad behavior with certain things? Because other people might not think that that's bad. It might be bad to you. So I would just be mindful of that, maybe, and you can draw the line wherever you want. It's your child, it's your family. We all have different lines. Some would say, oh, that's funny. The child, threw food at the table. As long it was going on the floor and, we can clean it right up, it's not that big of a deal. Other people would be like, no way, not acceptable. That doesn't happen in our house. So you've got to, we all determine our own stuff. So, hey, want to thank everybody. I've got to get going here. Got another appointment, but appreciate the love both on TikTok and on YouTube. Remember too, if you have any interest, go to daduniversity.com. Check out the membership. It's pay what feels good. So you pay what you want to pay, and you get to choose the price. You get access to the courses, hundreds of videos without any stuff in them, just straight to the point, straight, categorize exactly what you need. But the courses are just the best. I'm the one who created it, but I think that's really a lot of the value. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing. And following and being members and everything else. And just want to say thank you to everybody. And I will hopefully see you soon. I'll be back on TikTok. I'll keep making some videos as long as people watch them and don't get too upset over them. And then YouTube, I'm always going to be on YouTube. I love YouTube as well. So I'll see you guys soon. and take care. Now I just need to figure out how to do this. Let's see. Because I don't know how.